everybody, Sam Amico here with Hoops Wire Live on 330 to go. It's been too long. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. I could not be more grateful that it's over. You know, you always have that time going into the holidays where it's like, yes, Christmas and New Year's are on the way. Cannot wait. It's like that 2-week buildup, you know? And that Christmas week, for those who celebrate Christmas, tons of fun. New Year's, for those who celebrate New Year's, tons of fun. But there's a period there, like a day or two before New Year's Eve, where I'm like, I need this to be over. I'm done with family. They're done with me. My friends are tired of me already. We need to get back to our normal routine. And here we are, back to our normal routine. Fridays, Hoops Wire Live, 330 to go. The Atlanta Hawks, let's talk some NBA. Atlanta Hawks just traded Trae Young, the face of the franchise for the last 7 years, and deservedly so, led them to the Eastern Conference Finals. For all the people who say, oh, Trae Young's nothing special, or Trae Young doesn't play defense, or Trae Young blah, 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 he took a really lousy Atlanta Hawks team to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like Allen Iverson and the Philadelphia 76ers in 2001. So, you know, he gets traded, which led me to my next thought, to the Washington Wizards, by the way. And I'm going to love for years watching that Trae Young, Darren Peterson backcourt for years to come, starting probably next season. So Wizards have not won 50 games since 1979. There we go. You know what? If Trae Young can lead this team to 50 wins before he retires, franchise legend. They'll build him a statue. And I am personally a big Trae Young fan. A lot of people find that hard to believe, but I love the guy. I love watching him play. And he's probably one of the few opposing players I have on my Instagram page. A video of him I shot before the Cavs game, admitting I'm too old to have a favorite player that's a non-Cav, but if I did, this would probably be the guy. He's slight build, but he's shifty. He scores. He's great at, people say, oh, he's, not a team player. He led the league in assists. There's always top 3. So I'm a big fan. I became a considerably bigger fan of Trae Young when I learned that his preferred destination was the Washington Wizards. That's a first in NBA history. No one has ever said, I want to play for the Washington Wizards before Trae Young. Anyway, Cleveland Cavaliers. I mentioned this trade because the Cavs have been uneven to this point. As we sit here and talk, 21-18, which is not where anybody expected. Yes, injuries have played a role in that, but I think that they've had their 3 guys together long enough that we can start to make a real assessment, or close to an assessment. We're almost at the midway point. So 21-18, 39 games, you play 41 in a regular season. Is it time for the Cavs to make a trade? Can they make a trade? The answer is perhaps and probably not, but it's possible. The Cavs are the only team in the entire NBA over the second apron, which means they are hard capped, which means the salary cap, they're over it. There's like a salary cap that you can go over and pay a tax. That's called the first apron. Then there's a salary cap that you go over and not just pay twice the tax, but you pay a tax penalty. The second apron, that prohibits you from making very many moves if you go over that. And the Cavs are over that. They're the only team in the NBA that's over that. It's already difficult enough if you're over the first apron. The second apron, it's next to impossible. But this is also the NBA. You can find ways to make those happen. Basically, if the Cavs want to make a trade, they've got to make the trade almost 1-for-1. They can't aggregate salaries and trade, say, Jalen Tyson and Craig Porter Jr. for one guy. They can't do that. Not that you want to trade those two, and I'm sure they're not looking into it. They're going to listen. They have 1 month to make a trade. February 5th is the trade deadline. Last year, they pulled off George Niang and Karis LeVert for DeAndre Hunter. They could not make could not make that trade this year because they traded two guys for one. Can't do that now. They pretty much have to. Let me back up for a second. I always say, and this is because I've been told this by people in the NBA, the first apron punishes ownership by making them pay a tax. The second apron punishes general managers by prohibiting them from making moves. And that's where the Cavs are. I should say prohibit, but completely, limiting their ability to make a deal. So, I'm actually more interested in what you have to say on whether they make a trade. I think that they can, but it's going to be a 1-for-1 guy. They could potentially rope in another team so that they could get a guy from a third team. So it doesn't have to be straight up. Say they don't have to trade Darius Garland for the Pelicans point guard straight up. They could rope in a third team and get somebody else. The two guys that fans are telling me that they would like to see moved most are Darius Garland, and Jared Allen. The Cavs right now, I can tell you this, here's a little insight for you, are churning away any kind of trade offers. Teams are trying to rip them off at this point in the year, and then you start to get serious like February 1st. But right now, teams are, we'll give you our third string point guard for Darius Garland. Their salaries match. Our third string point guard just happens to be a bust. So, when we say that the Cavs are in trade talks and rebuffing any offers, it's not because they're like, we don't want to make a trade. It's because we're not going to give you Darius Garland or Jared Allen for a guy who's at the end of your bench. But that's where you start. If you're the opposing team, if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball with Brad Pitt as Billy Beane, the Oakland A's athletics GM, that's how it works. You're working the phones, you're hanging them up, you're calling another GM. That's how it works. And the two guys that everybody has been talking about are right there. Darius Garland, Jared Allen. Can they trade one of them? I don't think that they're as big on potentially moving Darius Garland. I think Jared Allen, there's a possibility that they feel like maybe that's run its course a little bit. Kenny Atkinson has been sitting him for some of the fourth quarters in the first half of the season. We saw on Christmas Day against the Knicks that, Mitchell Robinson, as usual, was moving Jared Allen aside, getting offensive rebounds, and they were killing the Cavs. Those offensive rebounds on Christmas Day are why the Cavs blew a 16-point lead. Because the Knicks would miss a shot, Mitchell Robinson body up Jared Allen, move him out of the way, get the rebound, kick it out to a shooter. You let me say this: the what we saw from the Cavs in the last season in the playoffs, those issues to me still seem to be there. What is it? What does everybody say? They're not tough enough. And they're probably not. I think they missed. It's becoming evident that they missed on the Lonzo Ball trade. He's out of the rotation. You could trade him pretty easily. He has an expiring contract or a contract with a team option. So that means next year during the offseason, a team can decide whether or not to pick up that option. Right now, doesn't look like anybody would. So those are chips. Dean Wade's coming off the books, easily to move. Here's the thing, though. Do you get a guy who's going to help you more than Dean Wade for Dean Wade? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Probably not. If you trade Dean Wade, you're probably going to get the same kind of guy. Which isn't bad. But why trade Mish for Mash? Why do that to the locker room? Cavs aren't interested in that. Lonzo Ball, I don't know that anybody would take him right now. That's a problem with trades, right? You got to have somebody else who's agreeable. If the Cavaliers, if I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, and I don't know why I keep going back to the Pelicans, but that's where we are today. If I'm the New Orleans Pelicans and the Cavs call me and say, what will you give us for Jared Allen? If I'm the Pelicans GM, what do I say? Well, why are you trying to get rid of him? Why are you trying to trade him? Why do I want him? If you don't want him, why should I? That's where trade talk starts. It's not, oh, I can't wait to get this guy. Unless you're offering me Donovan Mitchell. You've got problems there in Cleveland right now. Your team is not living up to expectations. Why do I want to get involved? You have to be a salesperson, and you need a dance partner. Not easy to find. I hear that all the time in the summer or the trade deadline. The Cavs just did nothing. They couldn't find anybody to agree. You can't call a GM and say, hey, you're trading me this guy, and I'm trading you this guy. It doesn't work that way. It works that way. Let me backtrack for a second. It does work that way in NBA 2K. You can trade a guy for another guy without really needing an agreement. You just do it. If you're playing in the solo mode, you just do it. Real life doesn't work that way, sadly. Because there'd be a lot more trades I would force upon other GMs if it did work that way. And I'm sure the Cavs would too. So listen, should they make a trade? I have always been, number one, I've always been, let the entire season play out and get to the playoffs. Because in-season trades almost never lead you to anything great. Almost never. There's never been, I don't know too many trades that happen in February that put a team over the top. Takes a while, again, because this is not NBA 2K, it's humans. And it takes a while for personalities to integrate. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't fit. The personality proves not to be a fit. The Cavs very much miss George Niang. Very much. They have no one in that locker room. Again, I've said this on previous shows. No one in that locker room who will call out other guys. George Niang would do that. Donovan, got to start passing the ball. And Mitchell would be like, yeah, you're right. You're right, George. I mean, I've seen it. They don't have anybody like that now. It's not bad. They're great guys, and maybe that's the problem. They have all great guys, and George is a great guy too. But I'm not saying they miss George Niang specifically. They miss that voice. They miss a voice in the locker room. Tristan Thompson was another guy. Now, you can't just get these guys for that reason alone. They've got to be able to contribute, but that's very undervalued. And since they made that trade for DeAndre Hunter and lost Tristan Thompson at the end of last season, they don't have that voice. And I think if they do make a trade, the guy I would trade, if you're going to make a trade, is Jared Allen. It's nothing personal. Don't think Jared Allen is totally not valuable. But I think if you're going to make that deal, if you could find a deal, I would upgrade toughness in the toughness department. That's where they need. Whether it's a guy who comes in the locker room, you're going to need, if you trade Jared Allen, you got to find somebody who's putting up, 14 points and 8-9 rebounds at least every night. You're going to find that? It's not easy to find. I know Daniel Gafford in Dallas is supposedly available. Would they do that deal? Does that deal even work? I don't mess with the trade machines very much, but on this one, could you potentially... Daniel Gafford is a guy who's physical, who you don't see getting pushed around very much. But then I also ask myself, okay, here's what I always ask. Why does this other team want to move this player? it's a contract issue, then it becomes your contract issue. Is it because you don't trust him in the clutch? Then it becomes your issue. Guys aren't trading people that they think are going to help them win championships. My buddy said this last year. Why are the Atlanta Hawks giving us DeAndre Hunter for two guys who are just okay, and George Niang and Karis LeVert? Why are they doing that? Are we seeing a little bit why now? A little bit up and down for DeAndre? Sometimes a little soft. I like DeAndre Hunter. It's not a major criticism, but why did the Atlanta Hawks trade him for two guys that are no longer even on their team? Maybe we're seeing that a little bit. So, should the Cavs make a trade? Perhaps. Will it rescue the season? Perhaps. Maybe not any more than if they just keep everybody together. You're not going to make Jared Allen and Evan Mobley tougher. It's just not going to happen. I have a buddy who I work with at the Big Play Network who played against Evan Mobley in high school. And he said, even then, as opponents, we were sitting there wondering, why isn't this guy just taking over the game? Just not his personality. I think Evan's has a great trajectory. I think he's regressed a little bit since last season. I don't care. People are like, well, his numbers are about the same. I'm like, numbers don't. Are they winning numbers? Or are they flat? And if his numbers are about the same, you're not improving. I don't know. I'm not down on the Cavs. Don't get me wrong. Excuse me. But I do think something needs to be done because the same issues they had against the Indiana Pacers in the playoffs are here. They don't have, Ty Jerome was terrible against the Pacers, right? They have not found a replacement for him. Craig Porter Jr. is a nice player. He's not what Ty Jerome brought last year. Maybe he can evolve into that. Lonzo Ball, it doesn't look like it's going to happen in Cleveland. I think he's probably, two years off with a knee issue and then missing all last year with a wrist injury or all but 35 games. He's probably on his last contract. They whiffed on that trade, but it's not a big deal. I mean, you gave up Isaac Okoro. It's not a big deal. It was time to move on from Okoro. I thought at the time it was a good trade for the Cavs. I was wrong. Lonzo Ball has not been, listen, I always say give people 45, 50 games. We're right about there. We're almost there. We're at 39 games. So do the Cavs need to make a trade? I would say if they can, probably, but I don't think it would save the season. I think fans are wrong about that. They're not going to have a trade now. If you make a trade now, you're basically saying maybe this will get us to the East Finals. I don't think they're headed there now. Again, all of this can change with a 5 or 6 game winning streak. It doesn't even have to be that much. 4. Win 4 out of 5 or win 7 out of 8, which they're capable of doing. You win 7 out of 8, the entire narrative around this team changes, the entire feeling, the vibes, everything. They're capable of doing that. And if they do that, wouldn't you rather have them do it at the end of the year than the beginning? Wouldn't you rather have them do it at the playoffs? Wouldn't you rather have them be this year's Indiana Pacers, where they get hot at the right time? They enter the playoffs as a 6 seed and get hot at the right time? This team has that potential. Doesn't look great right now, but they're only 3 games out of third. I don't think this is sustainable for the Celtics. Celtics are in third place in the Eastern Conference. They're going down. It's not sustainable. Toronto Raptors, 4th place in the conference. Not going to finish in 4th. Philadelphia 76ers, 5th. Maybe. Orlando Magic, 6th, which is surprising. They'll move up. I think Cavs will move up. So they're going to be probably top 4 in the conference without a trade. I still believe that because they haven't played very well lately. There's just won 6 of the last 10, which is, I was wanted to say 6 out of the last 7, but I didn't go there. 6 out of the last 10. And yeah, so they're going to explore trades. That much I can tell you. They always do. Even when they were what? With the LeBron era. At the trade deadline, you always make trades. Kathy says to get rid of Ball, which, I mean, there's no argument there. You can't really say keep Lonzo Ball. I mean, he's just not had anything. And Kenny has to stop with ridiculous lineups. That was a head scratcher last night. That was a head scratcher with Craig Porter Jr. starting a small ball lineup. Craig Porter Jr., Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, because Dean Wade was out. You went small against a really big team in the Timberwolves. And I just think that, it got away from them. It didn't work. They got hammered in the first quarter and they got hammered in the third quarter. I just didn't like that from Kenny Atkinson. I don't like to question the coach because he wants to win the game. You know what I mean? It's not like he's out there like, let's try this. Doesn't work. So what? It's a loss. So I think he was doing that to help with their rotation because their bench play has been so bad, but it didn't work against a big team like Minnesota. They got blown out at the start of the first quarter and then blown out in the third quarter. The rest of the time, when the starters weren't on the floor, the Cavs actually won that game by like 12 points against Minnesota. I mean, you live and learn. You make mistakes. This is the time you make mistakes. You're not trying to win a championship. Let me see. January 9th. Nobody's ever won the NBA title on January 9th. So this is, you're there. You're in the mix in the East. It's not like you're, so it's like, let's try this. Okay. Let's never do that again. Okay. I doubt Craig Porter Jr. starts with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on Saturday afternoon when they play the Minnesota Timberwolves again. By the way, that game's a 1 p.m. start, which I told the Cavs, you're going to have games at 1 o'clock. I'm going to have to set my alarm on a Saturday. Come on, man. You're killing me here. So that's where we stand with the Cavaliers. 3:30 to go. Had a comment there about the style of play being concerning. Absolutely. Isn't the record right? And that's exactly it. And they have started to do that better more recently with Ben. That's the positive type of thinking that I like. You're always welcome to comment. In fact, I encourage you to comment more. 3:30 to go, though. I have a little issue with what you said. Am I fired? No, I'm just kidding. I agree. They have done that better lately. They've moved the ball quickly to get open shots. And I think that they're defending overall a little bit better lately, even though they gave up 130 points and way too many threes at Timberwolves. Those nights are going to happen. They're just going to happen. The other team just gets unbelievably hot, and you're not. So I think that they're coming around to 3:30 to go's point. They're coming around in that they are starting to look a little bit more like the team we saw last season. They could have been amazing and not won in Minnesota. That's not a big concern to me. I'm not going to go into Minnesota. My concern is you did play well enough to win that game and didn't win it. And that's where their issues are. They're not finishing games that, we saw that against the Knicks on Christmas Day. That's really been, that Christmas Day game has really been kind of an example of the entire season. So, all right, I promised 3:30 to go, a shorter show today. I don't know. Did we come close to that, Steve? A shorter show?
Yeah, 25 minutes.
25 minutes. You know what I said? 10 minutes today. 10 minutes. It's never going to happen. It takes me 10 minutes to get through the introduction. All right. Well, on that note, love that you guys are still following along with this team. I could go another 35 minutes if we talked about the Cleveland Browns, but I will not do that. I don't think they're getting John Harbaugh. I posted that on the 330 to go page. And there's going to come a point where I'll be doing this show, but will have been blocked by 330 to go for all my Browns takes. They'll be like, you know what? Get this guy out of here. He's so negative about the Browns. But anyway, I do think that the Cavs can make a trade. I do think that they should. And, you keep your fingers crossed that it's the right deal. So we'll see. We will talk to you more next week when the show, I will promise it will be down to 15 minutes and we'll go an hour. So thanks so much for joining, and we will talk to you then.